So the next presentation is from some of our colleagues from Technical University in Dublin, Olivia Freeman, Cormac McMahon, Alico McAlpine and Lucia Walsh. And they're going to talk to us today about their work around enhancing SDG literacy through authentic assessment strategies. So I'm going to pass the mic over to you, Alico.
Thank you, Eileen. Can you see my presentation?
Yep.
Okay, great. Our presentation looks at work my colleagues, Dr. Lucia Walsh, Dr. Olivia Freeman, Dr. Cormac McMahon and I have done on enhancing SDG literacy through authentic assessment strategies. I'll give a quick overview of TU Dublin and how we're using sustainability literacy to educate business students to become global citizens. Then Lucia will speak about the Sully Test tool and take us through how we've used Sully Test and authentic assessment in our TLA. We are based at the College of Business in TU Dublin, which following the merger of 3 institutes of technology in 2019 became Ireland's first technological university. TU Dublin engages 28,000 students in research-informed, practice-led education across a range of disciplines from apprenticeships to PhDs. The TU Dublin strategy was developed through the lens of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And out of this emerged 3 interrelated strategic pillars: people, planet and partnership. The vision of the university is to create a better world together. And SDG 4 specifies that all students should acquire the skills needed to promote sustainable development, and global citizen education is included as one of the essential elements to achieve this goal. Students develop as global citizens when they demonstrate concern for the world and an understanding of their own possibilities in the world and towards the world. And global citizen education is the legitimate business of the university, and it is increasingly recognised that business schools have a crucial and urgent role to play in educating global citizens. And business schools have been internationalizing their curricula for over half a century, and more recently there has been a focus on sustainability through accreditation processes. The AACSB started a campaign to emphasize societal responsibility and sustainability, while in 2007 a number of business schools and accrediting agencies proposed a set of standards consistent with the goals of the UN Global Compact, and those are called the Principles for Responsible Business Management Education. At TU Dublin, we're committed to facilitating learning and knowledge creation, fostering ambition and passion for sustainability. All programs will have a sustainability as a learning outcome. The broad aim of our work, which I present today, involves using authentic assessment strategies to allow students to reflect upon their awareness and understanding of the SDGs in the context of their role as global citizens. Given the various disciplines within the business school, the sustainability literacy concept is useful as a foundational piece for ESD and can be meaningfully embedded on any programs across the faculty. In line with the CompAIA, we define sustainability literacy as the knowledge, skills and mindsets that help compel an individual to become deeply committed to building a sustainable future and allow them to make informed and effective decisions to this end. And we understand that the assessment we've built here to be an authentic assessment using Ashford-Rose criteria, designing real-world tasks to demonstrate application of knowledge and skills. I'm going to hand over to Lucia now, who will talk to you about Sully Test and how we've incorporated Sully Test into our authentic assessments.
Thank you, Alico. Hi, everyone. So what is our approach to authentic assessment, enhancing SDG literacy and global citizenship? We have embedded this approach across a number of different modules within the Faculty of Business, but also our colleague implemented it in other disciplines too, for example, in food science, tourism, culinary arts, social work and engineering. So it's really applicable to any discipline. We adjusted our approach to suit the different disciplines, but also cohorts such as undergraduate students, postgraduate and executive education. And we are focusing here today on just Faculty of Business students. So there are 3 steps in this authentic assessment that we follow. The students first complete Sully Test, and there is no grade attached to it. Then step 2 would be to reflect on their experience of doing SULI tests and drawing out the meanings from SULI tests using deep framework with prompts to guide them. And then the last part would be linked to authentic assessment that was module specific. So I'll tell you more about each of these steps and show you some examples from Alako's and mine practice. Next slide, please. Okay, so the first step is SULI test. Next slide, please. So SULI test is a UN-supported platform. I don't know if any of you know it, but if not, we are happy to talk to you about it as well if you want to try it out. It is supported and recognized by the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education and by PRIME. And there are a number of different options of learning and exploring. As part of our assessment, we have been mostly using the test. It is a collection of 40 MCQs that are linked to knowledge, skills, and mindsets around the SDGs. There is an option to add other modules too, for example, circular economy, which we have frequently added on for our students. And then some countries also develop their own country-specific modules, and initiated by us at the SDG Literacy Community of Practice, we are now leading the regional and national experts committee to create an Irish-specific module. Next slide, please. So this is what it looks like when students are taking SULI tests. This is in a learning mode, so students can see the different answers, and once they select their answer, whether it's correct or incorrect, on the next screen, they are provided with the correct answer as well as additional resources that are aimed at enhancing knowledge further. And the inclusion of these real-world resources is very useful for the students and for building their knowledge of the SDGs and enabling them to make meaningful connections between the SDGs and their studies. Next slide, please. So the second step is then reflection. So this piece has been also commonly adopted by us across the Faculty of Business. And this common approach allowed us for analysis of students' reflections. We got research ethical approval to conduct this analysis, which has been really insightful. So the students are provided with prompts for each of these elements. They are encouraged to select 2 or 3 of the SDG-related issues that they identified as most interesting while completing SULI tests. As they progress in their reflection, they relate these issues back to their studies, personal and professional lives. Next slide, please. So these are just examples of some of the students' reflections. These reflections show us great insight into students' knowledge and perceptions and what impact their new awareness of sustainability issues had on their college, personal and future professional lives. It was really impactful. It's a very, very impactful way to pause and reflect for the students as part of their own global citizenship skills development. And the most common topics were around plastic pollutions, forced labor, renewable energies, circular economy and gender inequality. And there are also a lot of feelings that came through these reflections, ranging from shock, anger, disbelief, but also feelings of hope, optimism, and recognition of own privilege. Next slide, please. Thank you. And then the last step is related to developing authentic piece that is linked to particular modules and student cohorts. So I will begin by showing some of my own examples, and then I hand the presentation over back to Alako, who will speak about what she has been doing. So if you can just play the video there, Alako, as well, thank you. So this was an assignment that I have used with a few different cohorts on undergrad and postgraduate programs. This particular example is by a third-year undergraduate student, and she was focusing on gender inequality in the construction industry. So after completing SULI tests and reflecting on it, the students were asked to choose one topic relating to SDGs, link it to a particular industry, and make practical and actionable recommendations for practitioners. They did this by creating a short 3-minute video that they shared on LinkedIn to create even more engagement and impact among practitioners. Many of the students set up their LinkedIn profile for the very first time, so there was a lot of additional learning. This particular assignment was also integrated with Alako's supply chain management module, as the same students attended both of these modules. They only engaged in SULI test and reflection once, and then created 2 separate but linked authentic assessment pieces for both modules, which worked out really well. Next slide. So here are some just additional posts. The students were flooding LinkedIn, which was great with all these new innovative ideas, and some got really great engagement, which was really empowering and rewarding for the students. Next slide, please. So this next assignment was a team assignment. Students were asked to choose a topic of interest in international management module, engage with peer-reviewed industrial literature, and then create a short podcast episode. We now have a podcasting studio available too on our campus, so the students could use it as seen in the photo. The learning experience was scaffolded well because it's a new form of assessment. So I provided very detailed instructions and also invited an experienced podcaster, Gary Fox, who runs the Entrepreneur Experiment podcast, to do a session with the students on how to do a podcast. So as soon as this reflection, some students also invited guests to their podcast, which further enhanced the podcast. And this was another great learning experience for the students to develop lots of different soft skills. Next slide, please. One of the assignments in our new business sustainability module was linked to collaboration with the Useless project. This is the Useless project are sustainability activists with over 47,000 Instagram followers, and our undergraduate students would be, heavy Instagram users. We held a briefing session with them, and the students were then tasked with creating content that related to business sustainability issue. The Useless project are at the moment reviewing selected content by our students, and they're going to be publishing a number of them over the next few months. The students really enjoyed this assignment because they use Instagram a lot, and they learned a lot of new skills in relation to translating complex issue into visual stories to create engagement and action. And that engagement and action was really important part of their assignment, not just share an interesting idea, but what steps do need to follow. So I'll pass you on to Alaka, who will speak about her own examples. Thank you.
Sorry,
You're
I'm
unmuted
there. And just to give you a 3-minute warning as well. You're still muted.
Okay, can you see my slides?
And we can hear you now as well.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, they're not in presenter mode though.
Okay, so apologies for that. So I'm going to talk about my supply chain management module, where we did the Sully test and then the reflective piece. And the next thing the students were asked to do was to debate where responsibility in the supply chain lies for sustainability issues. And then they were asked to get involved in an activism piece, to either contact a local politician or a policy maker to ask them to use their position to fight for particular policies, or to contact a brand about what they're doing in the area. And then they were tasked with making a video on the first 3 steps. And again, this video is from one of the students taking the supply chain module, and he addresses issues around SDG 12, responsible production and consumption in the food and beverage industry. And at the end of the video, he outlines further steps he will take in the family business, like consumer surveys on what consumers are interested in with regards the food industry. And sorry, that's not sharing. Yeah. And in an effort to achieve a broader reach, Roberto also set up an Instagram page called Sustainable Food Management, with information and tips for consumers. Other students, for their activism piece, contacted companies, and they asked them questions about where their factories are located. Do workers in their factories get paid a living wage? Are they doing anything to increase supply chain transparency? And some companies contacted government ministers and asked them to use their position to fight for issues like the gender pay gap and climate change. And student activism can contribute to achieving the SDGs, and civic engagement is important. higher education institutions have an important role in advancing sustainable development through well-articulated student voices as a lever for social and economic change. And not only is student activism a meaningful contribution to society, research shows that it helps a student to look at life globally, and it gives students a sense of empowerment. You can see from the quotes on the slides that the students learn that they could use their voice to bring about positive change. This slide shows some pages from one of our fourth year students' e-portfolio. Students created different artifacts for both Lucia and my fourth year modules and collated them in an e-portfolio which they built using Wix. This allowed integration of knowledge and enabled the students to see the connections across the modules. The e-portfolio showcases learning throughout the programs, demonstrates students' personal skills and contributes to building their professional identity online. And some students have reported using their e-portfolios when they're looking for jobs, and even linked them to their LinkedIn profiles. So we've been very fortunate to have been recipients for national and university funding for our work in this area over the last couple of years. And this has resulted in the emergence of a community of practice around sustainability literacy with a focus on the SDGs. You can read more about the activities of this community on our website, sdgliteracy.ie. And if you're interested in using Sully Test or discussing our authentic assessment ideas further, please feel free to contact us.